Hey, welcome back to Wisdom from the Porch. I'm GP. I want to start with something today that might sound strange. Several years ago, I found myself genuinely sad about a version of my life that never existed. Not a person I lost, not an event, a version of me. The one who might have gotten some answers about how my brain worked 20 years earlier than I did. I sat with that feeling for a while before I had a name for it. And when I finally did, it changed everything about how I carried it. Today we're talking about that feeling. The grief that doesn't get a funeral. No casserole shows up at your door for this one. Nobody sends a card, but it's real, and I want to walk through it with you. Not to make you sadder, no, but because I truly believe naming this one is one of the most hopeful things you can do for yourself. So stick with me. This one's tender, but it's good. Pull up a chair. Here's the thing about grief. We mostly only recognize it when it comes with a clear before and after. Someone was here, now they're not. That kind of loss, the world knows what to do with. People show up. There's a process. But there's another kind of loss that doesn't get any of that, and it's one a lot of neurodivergent adults are quietly carrying. Let me walk through a few versions of it because I think you'll recognize at least one. The loss of time. If you got a later diagnosis, there's a very natural question that shows up. What would have been different if I'd known sooner? That question doesn't have a clear answer, and I want to say clearly, you asking it is not you stuck in the past. It's you honoring how much that not knowing actually cost. That deserves a moment, not a dismissal. Then there's the loss of relationships. Some relationships and partnerships didn't survive patterns nobody had a name for yet. That's real, and it's okay to feel the weight of that without turning it into self-blame. You were doing your best with what you knew at the time. So was everyone else. Then there's the loss of the other version of you. This is the one that got me, the one I told you about at the top of the show. There's a version of you that might have existed with earlier understanding, earlier support, a world that had your back sooner. That version didn't get to happen. And here's where I want to gently push back on something. Grieving that version isn't weakness, and it isn't self-pity. It's just honest. You're allowed to miss someone who never got to exist, even if that someone is you. And lastly, the loss of the story you told yourself. For years, maybe decades, you had an explanation for why things were hard. I'm lazy, I'm too sensitive, I'm difficult. That story was wrong, and letting it go is wonderful, but it also takes up real estate. Releasing an old identity, even a false and painful one, is still a kind of goodbye. Give yourself permission for that to be a little disorienting. Here's what I want you to really hear underneath all of that. None of this means you're stuck. It means you're human, and you're honest, and you're finally looking at your life with the lights on. That's not a small thing. That's actually the beginning of something good. I want to make a case to you, and I really believe this one. Naming a grief is one of the most hopeful things a person can do. Here's why. Grief that doesn't get named doesn't go away. It just goes underground and shows up wearing a different outfit. It becomes anger that doesn't seem to have a clear source. It becomes a low hum of sadness that never resolves because it was never actually let in the front door. The unnamed version of grief is the one that lingers the longest. The named version is the one that actually moves. So when you say out loud or on paper, "I'm grieving the years before I understood myself," you're not opening a wound. You're closing one, eventually, because you're finally giving it somewhere to go. I also want to gently separate two things that get tangled together: grief and regret. Grief is about loss. Regret is about choices. A lot of folks carry regret that doesn't actually belong to them. If only I'd done this differently. If only I'd figured it out sooner. But you made the best choices available to you with the information you had. That's not a small consolation prize. That's the truth. The grief is about what the circumstances cost you. It's not evidence that you did something wrong. And here's the most encouraging part, the part I really want you to leave with. Grief and forward motion are allowed to happen in the same week, even the same day. You can genuinely mourn the years you didn't have this understanding, and you can also be excited right now about what you're building with the understanding you have. That's not contradiction. That's just what a full, honest life actually looks like. And you know, I dealt with this even after my parents died a week apart back in 24. There were moments in the midst of the deep grief I was experiencing that there were things that were funny. Watching my grandchildren do something or say something that was humorous. A show on TV that made me laugh. But then I caught myself and I was like, what are you so happy about? Why are you smiling? You're experiencing some of the worst hurt you'll probably ever experience in your life, losing both of your parents a week apart. Visions of seeing them both in caskets in front of me at the funeral. And you have the nerve to be laughing at this comedian? You have the nerve to feel happy watching your grandchild? I had to deal with that. And eventually I had to give myself permission to be happy while I was grieving. Grief and forward motion are allowed to happen in the same week, even the same day, even at the same time. Before I go, this is Heard You. I have to tell you, this next one might be one of the best comments this show has ever gotten. It came in from someone going by Pink Mango 9851 after the episode on making friends as an adult that I just did Monday. I'm going to read the whole thing because every part of it matters. They say, "This was really great. I really enjoy your Front Porch series a lot. It's really great that you talk about these things and explain them in such an easy-to-understand manner. I also really appreciate that you make a point to let people know that we are not broken or have flawed character for being the way God made us. I have a neurodivergent brain. I am ADD and dyslexic. I am also hypersensitive. I am very empathetic and tend to be an empath. I feel people and things deeply. I see so much of myself in the things you talk about, and it's so great to finally be able to understand it and get methods to help. I have written many down. I have been told a lot that I need to get a thicker skin and that I'm too sensitive. I loved what you told Cheryl. It was beautiful, and I hope it really spoke to her. It spoke to my heart. I'm so sorry she's been treated that way, and I hope she knows how beautiful she is. Thank you, GP, for helping, listening, and being a guiding light. I have passed your videos on to friends and will start sharing it with my son, who is 15 and also neurodivergent. We can learn and grow some more, as we always have, together. Thank you. Okay. There is so much in there I want to honor. First, the way you described feeling things deeply, being an empath, carrying that hypersensitivity alongside ADD and dyslexia. That's a full layered picture of a person, and I want you to know that every piece of it belongs together. None of it is the part that needs fixing. And what you said about Cheryl, that her story spoke to your heart, that you hoped she knew how beautiful she is. That right there is the whole show, working exactly the way I hoped it would. One person's honesty reaching another person, who then turns around and offers something just as kind. That's not me doing anything. That's you and Cheryl building something together that I just got to witness. And sharing this with your 15-year-old son, learning and growing together the way you always have, that might be my favorite sentence anyone has ever sent me. He's so blessed to have a parent willing to learn alongside him instead of just ahead of him. That's the whole job right there. You're already doing it beautifully. Thank you, sincerely. This is exactly why I do this. Your one next step this week? If there's a grief you've been carrying without a name, just write down one sentence. I am grieving blank. But fill in the blank. That's it. You don't have to solve it today. You just have to let it in the door. I am grieving, and whatever you're grieving, write that down. And if something from today or any episode is still sitting with you, drop it in the comments. I read everything. Some of it comes back to the porch. Today's episode is supported by Cloud Microphones, built for voices that have real things to say. Find them at cloudmicrophones.com. I'm GP. This is Wisdom from the Porch. Monday, we're talking about emotional spending, the honest version, no shame attached. See you then.